Let's be a little more simple-minded here for a moment. Have you ever wondered why, in the back of your mind, why in the world is there an Egyptian pyramid on the back of the U.S. dollar? Pull out a dollar and look at the back of it now. Doesn't it seem a little strange to you? I know as growing up when I first was given money by my parents, and I looked at it. I mean, it wasn't a big deal, but man, it was like, the dollar looked pretty interesting. It had a pyramid on the back. And if you be honest with yourself when you look at it, it seems a little strange that you have an Egyptian pyramid on an American dollar. Throughout this film, it has been subtly implied that the futuristic Babylon is America. If you read the entire 18th chapter of the book of Revelation concerning the fall of a future Babylon, it makes one more suspicious that this future Babylon is the country we're walking around in, America. But more to the point, in what other way did the Revelator describe this futuristic Babylon? Let us read. Starting in the chapter 14, verse 8, we have, "And there followed another angel, saying, Babylon is fallen, that great city." In Revelation chapter 18, verse 10, we have, "Standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour thy judgment is come." In verse 21 we have, "And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall the great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all." Okay, here we are shown that the Revelator repeatedly refers to this future Babylon as this great city. Well, and how else did the Revelator characterize this great city, or Babylon? How else did he characterize, quote unquote, the great city? In the book of Revelation, chapter 11, verse 8, we have, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt." In this verse, the Revelator reveals that this Babylon is also characterized or called by another name, Egypt. Why did he call her by the name Egypt? This is because Babylon has the characteristics of Egypt as described in the Old Testament. What particular aspect of ancient Egypt is being compared to this futuristic Egypt or futuristic Babylon? The Revelator tells us the following. In chapter 18, verse 4, we have, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues." Here we are told that God or Christ is calling his people out of Babylon, which is being plagued. This also happened to the children of Israel in Egypt in the book of Exodus. Book of Exodus chapter 3 verse 10 we have, "Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people to the children of Israel out of Egypt." Chapter 12 verse 13 gives us, "And the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you, when I smite the land of Egypt." Looking at this harmony of scriptures, it is easy to see why the Revelator said the future Babylon is spiritually called Egypt. But let's go a little deeper. What of this slavery in ancient Egypt? Let us see the unison of the last book of the Bible, the book of Revelations, and the first book of the Bible, the book of Genesis, in terms of God's people coming out of a wicked country. In the book of Genesis, chapter 15, starting in verse 12, we have, "And when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and lo, an horror of great darkness fell upon him. And he said unto Abram, Know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and they shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward shall they come out with great substance." Now, here we have the prophecy of Abraham's seed going to bondage in a land and coming out. Now, in this particular prophecy, God told Abraham that he was going to bring a seed out of a nation, but he didn't tell Abraham what the name of that nation was. God told Abraham that he would judge that nation and that they would come out. So Abraham didn't know where this nation was or what it was called, anything according to scripture, according to the prophecy. He didn't know where this, it was a mystery to Abraham. But he was sad, or he was being informed that his seed was going to be in another nation, and God was going to have to bring them out because they were going to be enslaved in another nation. But Abraham didn't know what nation this was, according to this prophecy. Okay, so God told Abraham that he would judge that nation and that his children would come out. So naturally, a voice from heaven, naturally, when God will have these people come out of that nation, when we go to Revelation and read about his people coming out, naturally, it's a voice from heaven, or God will say, "Come out of her, my people." We go to Revelation chapter 18, verse 4, we have, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, 'Come out of her, my people.'" Now, that corresponds directly with Genesis chapter 15, verse 14, when God says, "Also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out. They shall come out with great substance." So naturally, God will give the command, as given in Revelation 18 and 4, "Come out of her, my people," because he told Abraham, "They shall come out." And when God says, "Come out of her, my people," that's a command, and that will happen. It shall happen. Now, but the question arises, how can this be the future Babylon when the prophecy of Abraham's seed in Genesis was already fulfilled by the children of Israel and Moses in the book of Exodus? The answer is there was no slavery of Abraham's seeds in ancient Egypt. It never happened. The prophecy was concerning a future Egypt, spiritually known as Babylon. How do we know this? I am proposing to you, I am saying to you that the slavery that you read about in the book of Exodus, that you've seen a movie about with Charlton Heston, and about the Jews being in Egypt for 400 years, I have just told you that did not happen. So let's examine this claim that I'm asserting here in this video, that the children of Israel in the book of Exodus did not really happen. It was a prophecy of something to happen in the future. Now, let's look at what Jesus of Nazareth revealed to us, or a conversation with Jesus of Nazareth for 2,000 years revealed to us concerning this subject. Now, here's a conversation that Jesus was having with the Jews of his time, who were the supposed seed of Abraham. If we go to John chapter 8, verse 31, we have, "Then Jesus said to those Jews which believed on him, 'If you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.' They answered him," the Jews, or Abraham's seed, "they answered him, 'We be Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, ye shall be made free?'" Here the Jews of 2,000 years ago, while arguing with Jesus, they tell Jesus that they were never in bondage. Yet in Genesis chapter 15 verse 12, it was God told Abraham that his seed will be in bondage for 400 years. If Abraham's seed never went into bondage, as the Jews told Jesus 2,000 years ago, then the story in Exodus has to be an unfulfilled prophecy during that time, because we cannot make God a liar. So so this must mean that it is a prophecy of the prophecy of Egypt in the book of Exodus is not history, it's a prophecy of a future Egypt. Now, archaeologists tell us the same thing today that the Jews told Jesus 2,000 years ago. In an article in the New York Times published April 3rd, 2007, entitled, "Did the Red Sea Part? No Evidence," archaeologists say, we have this, quote, "Due to the newly discovered archaeological discoveries in Egypt, a reporter decided to ask about the Exodus and if the new evidence was linked in any way to the story of the Passover. The archaeological discoveries roughly coincided with the timing of the Israelites' biblical flight from Egypt and the 40 years of wandering in the desert in search of the Promised Land. The article tells us, quote, Really, it is a myth, Dr. Hawass said of the story of the Exodus. Archaeologists who have worked here have never turned up evidence to support the account in the Bible. Quote, "If they get upset, I don't care," Dr. Hawass said. "This is my career as an archaeologist. I should tell them the truth. If the people are upset, this is not my problem." Okay, so here we have indicated in a story published in the New York Times, a world-renowned archaeologist that's telling a reporter that's asking him about the Exodus. He told him that it never happened. There's no evidence that there were the children of Israel or any Jews enslaved in Egypt. He said it's not true. It's a myth. So he's saying it did not happen. So now we have the Jews of the Bible telling Jesus it never happened 2,000 years ago. And then we have an archaeologist in Egypt in 2007 telling another reporter that, hey, this never happened. The Jews were not in bondage. Here is Dr. Hawass.
In the shadow of the Great Pyramids of Giza, Egypt has displayed its latest archaeological discovery. Tombs more than 4,000 years old, said to belong to workers who built them. The modest 9-foot deep shafts encased in limestone were uncovered last week. They held a dozen skeletons of pyramid builders, perfectly preserved by dry desert sand. In addition to bones, the tombs also contain jars that once held beer and bread meant for the workers in their afterlife. Egypt's archaeology chief Zahi Hawass said they date to the 4th dynasty, around 2,500 years before Christ. He said the discovery could well be the most important of the 21st century, with their location a key element in dispelling a popular belief.
But the discovery of the tombs of the pyramid builders reconstruct history and tell us that the builders of the pyramids were Egyptians and the builder of the pyramids were not slaves, because they will be buried beside the pyramids, in the shadow of the pyramids.
Hawass said the manner of their burial and the fact that those who died during the construction were entombed so close to the pharaohs in the pyramids meant they were honored workers, not slaves. Karen Sloan, The Associated Press.